Good evening. Cyclone Zelia brought wild winds and torrential rain swamping regional communities and forcing entire towns to be evacuated. Port Hedland residents relieved to have escaped the worst of the destruction, let out of lockdown to begin assessing the damage.
Back on dry land, a baby is carried to safety. Families touch down in a helicopter, rescued from floodwaters in the remote Indigenous community of Warralong. 60 people flown to the Port Hedland evacuation centre.
Yeah, we was scared, kids was crying, and we was inside the house. The wind was really rough, breaking all the trees and everything like that.
Port Hedland escaping the wrath of Cyclone Zelia. Residents waking to find street after street looking like this.
I think we kind of came out pretty lucky and unscathed, although the street looks like utter destruction at the moment.
Very, very windy. It was like a 747 jumbo jet right outside the front door. The rain was coming sideways.
Huge trees taking a tumble, but it was nothing compared to what they were expecting.
I think we definitely dodged a bullet, especially for all the trees and stuff that came down. If it had hit straight on, I think it would have been a lot worse.
It's all hands on deck here today. The community coming together, neighbours and locals helping each other out to begin this huge task of removing these trees. Cyclone Zelia making landfall as a Category 4, 60 kilometres east of Hedland, De Grey in the firing line, properties destroyed.
Staff at De Grey Station, which as we know is pretty well exactly where the cyclone crossed the coast, have reported extensive damage to buildings, including staff quarters and station kitchen, with trees blown over as well. 100
calls for help across the Pilbara since Friday, with record-breaking flood levels in the De Grey River.
The peak we saw in the Coongang River near Marble Bar was 10.2 metres. Now that's nearly 2 metres above the previous record of 8.3 metres at that location.
Live to Sarah Smith in Port Hedland. Sarah, a number of major roads are still closed tonight.
Tracy, they are. The road from Port Hedland to De Grey is still too dangerous to cross, so we haven't yet been able to get access to where this cyclone hit, but we have been speaking to people at the station who tell us they are okay, but that as we've seen, there is significant damage to buildings. As for the families who are evacuated from Warralong, they're set to stay here tonight in Port Hedland, and they could be here for a number of days to come as we wait for that flooding to subside and it's safe to return home. Tracy.
Sarah Smith in Port Hedland, thank you. And the region is not out of the woods just yet. Fears now turning to severe flooding caused by record rainfall. A watch and act warning is in place across parts of the Pilbara tonight, with emergency crews urging locals to be on alert.
A sunburnt country soaking. Record rainfall completely altering the Pilbara landscape.
This situation is still evolving with the amount of rainfall we've seen over the past 24 to 48 hours.
The cyclone may be over, but Zelia could have one final blow to deliver.
We're not quite out of the woods yet. This system has dumped an enormous amount of rain on the Pilbara and will lead to ongoing flooding in the coming days.
A flood emergency warning issued this morning for Warralong, now downgraded to a watch and act. The same warning also in place for both the Sandy Desert and the De Grey catchment areas. Along with it, a timely reminder.
Don't attempt to drive through flooded roads. It's incredibly dangerous. Floods can take control of a four-wheel drive in just 30 centimetres of flowing water.
Major roads, including the Great Northern Highway, closed, bringing fresh fears about food security, akin to those in the Kimberley 2 years ago.
When we had a similar event for Fitzroy Cross and we got barges to move food from Karratha to Broome, and we're looking at those options today.
It could take up to a week for the floodwater to flush its way through the system and out to sea. The 122 emergency service personnel already there for Cyclone Zelia will stay to assist for at least the next 2 weeks. Authorities hopeful the casualty count stays at 0.
Don't walk, swim or play in floodwaters. It is far too dangerous.
Yvonne Ardley, 9 News.